why Democrats are so horribly afraid of the crock of shit at the end of the rainbow with Ukraine has nothing to do with Hunter Biden and all the money he made. That's secondary. Oh my God, nobody has any idea. We're not even talking about the other American spooky characters who are on the board of Burisma. There's all these names that if you look up on the board of Burisma, that there's like some other people who are like these people who like that kind of recycle through Washington D.C. life. But the key thing that is going to become the most interesting is how was a group like the Azov Battalion organized? How was the Maidan organized and funded? We know that Soros said that his organization, the Open Society Foundation, was a major part of making the Maidan happen. But now, this whole idea of that the Democrats and a bunch of Republicans were going to clean up on the energy deals made after the Arab Spring as energy interests started taking chunks of the Mediterranean seabed and those gas fields, started pumping gas out of there. Then in Ukraine, doing something like fracking the Donbass. People are gonna clean up. They were gonna fucking clean up. The EU is going to become a federal state with an army. Macron had a hard on about it, but now it's all gonna turn to shit. Now it's all gonna come apart. This weird imperial idea. Erdogan was supposed to go down. The coup the fact that the coup failed, this just fucked everything up. It just became chaos. Because then Erdogan, he has to make some deals with Russia. He knows America wants him dead, but then Trump is elected. He doesn't know what to make of what Trump really wants. But Trump is definitely doing things that are playing him out. And then he's letting Russia deal with Syria. And, he's like, hey, you're not going to fuck me, are you, Trump? And then, but he can't, he has to stay dynamic. But the only dynamism he has now is where he's at. Where he's like, now I unleash the hordes of Muslims. Muslims attack! And it's like, do people not get this? Do people now not understand Tolkien? Do they not get it? So, yeah. This is Ukraine is where apparently a bunch of the intelligence part of it, that all the people who were in the State Department, all these various three-letter organizations throughout the government, all of these are their ties. All of it is going to be shown out. This is like when you play hacking games in Eve, and you go and it spreads, like you see the color goes out, and you see like other. You could go to this one, that one, that one, and there's the rule of six. The rule of six, and you have a pattern made of deltas, and that you plan that there's six out, there's six away from you in some way, and you have to play this certain way, that you have to move a certain way through it. It generally works along the rules of six. And so what Donald Trump has been doing, in a lot of the legal stuff that's been going on with also people who are helping from the Federalist Society, Judicial Watch, there are a lot of independent reporters, and there's a whole bunch of people who they want to make their career. There's up and comers that they want to make their legal career, and they want to make their legal career by making a big splash, and so that in another 40 years they're one of these gray-haired characters who's got the dirt on the enemies of Barron Trump or something like that. Presidential candidate Barron Trump is being spied on by the mind reading devices that we use. So the more people look into Ukraine, and this is the thing that I'm really posting this for, the more it's going to get ugly. This was a really, really weird, ugly op. And it's going to expose a lot about the EU. It's going to drive sort of the final, like, it's going to be that final moment where everybody really sits back and is like, Islam and us, we're never going to get along, are we? This is never going to work, is it? Like some people from there in the Western world could work, but this is obviously never going to really work. It's going to make a lot of the Catholic world like truly just sit there and be like, where do we even start rebuilding this? What do we do? Like, oh my God, what do we do? Like, look at what's been exposed about these people who've been in power. Like, where's the money? That's gonna be another one. Where'd all the money go? Where are you all hiding all the money? That's one that's, and really, these are all tied, because the European Mediterranean sphere and then into Ukraine, there's a number of different events and the way things are working to create a European federal state. The Greater Germany project and kind of idea, like the Fourth Reich, that's what the EU really was. And the Ukraine is this key piece because you could grow so much food there, but also there's all this fuel, there's all this energy, and they could tap that energy. And then on top of it, it made for this perfect forward base that would just be crippling to Russia. It'd be crippling. And Russia knew it. Russia knew exactly what was going on. They had already dealt with this. They knew this already ahead of time. The most bizarre part about a lot of this is that Russia was way ahead on all of this. So for years they were basically doing things that they were giving a microphone to people who would expose aspects of American history that somebody like me would learn about all this. And then I'm like, oh, okay, and that I'm getting sent articles on now these events accelerating, but that I could recognize when the Maidan's happening. Normal American could understand, wait a second, these symbols, okay, this group's wearing this group's wearing this, these guys are moving like a team. And the way that they're festooned in a way that's not just bandits. These are people who they know what they're doing. And that symbol is actually a symbol that is like some ancient pagan Slavic symbol. This is real weird. What is this? Then I see the picture of Stepan Bandera. And I'm like, no fucking way. That is not a photo of Stepan Bandera. And I'm like, I get to hear what is American media's take on all of it, and American media's take is just, oh, this glorious revolution of against corruption. The people are rising up in the Maidan, yada yada yada. I'm just sitting back like, you are fucking shitting me. Our administration has propped up neo-Nazis. Absolute, like, unadulterated. To the point that this is the best part, Democrats. People who are absolutely positively alternative right, alt-right. I know you're trembling right now. You're like, oh my gosh. You're like looking around. No. He's talking about them. See, he's got a tan. He's talking about them. He's exposing them. People from the Rise Above movement, I don't really know that much about it. I actually have not looked enough into it. I looked into it. I ended up forgetting because it just wasn't, like, I mean, they're just not kicking in doors, slapping around whores, It's just, not hanging out the window, puffing on endo, blasting fools. I'm just not worried about them. There's all kinds of maniacs in groups. They just don't appear to be of great enough number and widespread enough. But a bunch of them did end up in Ukraine, apparently, or about 3 of them. 3 Americans from the Rise Above movement end up training in Ukraine and being in this thing called the Azov Battalion. So then you could find all these various Russian independent news websites, and then some not so independent, that were all reporting on this. That there's these neo-Nazis who are fighting in the blah 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 blah. There's a pattern to this, and people are going to find out, like, oh my gosh, this was something that multiple administrations had to know. They had to know about this. Why did they go along with it? Wait a second. How didn't the BBC report this? How didn't it, all of these Western papers and Western television, how did the EU not know that this was happening? No. Using communists, using Black Bloc, using neo-Nazis, using political extremists is what the ABC groups do. They are part of they're the train company. They're the nuclear power. They're the people who ensure an entire fucking nuclear power facility. Who ensures some shit like that? Whatever organization funds the fucking Pentagon and the Mossad and all these different groups, but everybody's still biting for power. It still takes all the detailed work of actually at some point fighting people on the ground, clearing people out of an area you need to frack, getting enough people involved that you could start enough chaos that you and a bunch of guys could go out with your Kalashnikovs and shoot up the town and make people run, and hopefully not get destroyed by the Russian volunteers, who become, the Eastern Ukrainian army. And all this stuff, people like mercenaries, like people like that, like Motorola was his name. Motorola, I always had to remember. Names is so colorful. I kept thinking Kodiak? Kodak? No. Minolta? Motorola. And Motorola, I believe, was a Cossack. He's one of those red beard Muslims. White red beard people, like Kazakh or Uzbek or something like that. Kazakh or Uzbek. Kazbek. Kazbekistani. I know. In Kazakhstan. Um, so he like mercenaries like that. There was a short period of time with the Syrian conflict and Ukrainian conflicts were happening at the same time. You could see all these people with GoPros on the end of their Kalashnikovs shooting stuff, and it's like speaking in their back languages that sound like a tape going backwards, and then over their comms and stuff. And I mean, this is fascinating shit. There were guys pulling out little tablets that had an app that could find all the fucking infantry and stuff, and they could track who's taking what towns. See people with their big ass fucking guns parked in a fucking building, just mashing on people somewhere across the city. You don't know. You can't figure that shit out. How soldiers understand? They're over there. Fire. Oh, it's awful. Awful. Battle must be awful. I mean, it must be thrilling in one way, like when you lived through it and you're like, yeah, but it's awful. It obviously is terrible. And so watching, these people fight this mercenary war and then finding the stories of afterward where these people are going to jail for their mercenary work, then looking in Wikipedia and seeing, oh, and Congress cut off the funding because they were worried about neo-Nazi mercenaries getting money from the United States government. And that nobody's doing this. I don't understand how nobody knows this. Nobody understands like any of this. Nobody's looking into this freakish thing that, and these people are now regulars. They're now a regular organization in the military, and they have their own base, and they're some kind of specialized unit. They still have some international soldiers, but this wasn't really anything I really was like, see, this is where the real Nazis are. See, oh my god, I was like, oh, look at it, I'm galaxy brained. I'm sitting back saying, obviously no Democrat, no progressive, no liberal gives a fuck. Black president. As long as he's black. This is the beauty. I just sit there every once in a while, like laugh like Joker, just maniacally laugh that if it was a guy with a tan and he were to, I don't know, build a roller coaster system, would anybody stop him? Would anybody stop? If Ilhan Omar was made president, would anybody stop her? I mean, it's just, well, she is black. I just sit back and I'm like, holy shit. Holy fucking shit. If you have a black president, you can get drugged out, zonked out of their minds. Islamic mercenaries, killing and raping everything they came across in Syria, and then try to frame up the leader of Syria as his country is being invaded by mercenaries who seem to be inordinately well supplied and high as hell on drugs. That suddenly he's supposedly gassing his own citizens? Like, it's like, what the fuck? And Russia exposed it all. An American and Storm Cloud's Gathering channel, first channel I was demonetized that I ever saw on YouTube, that got demonetized. You'd never heard of it before. Nobody had ever heard of it before. And then the Russians were the ones who actually exposed that. All of it, the whole Obama Syria red line that the AP had reported that jihadists had said they did it by accident. They had found chemical weapons at such and such airport or such and such airfield or such and such air base. and accidentally set them off, and didn't move them correctly or something like that. And that story got buried. It got archived within no time at all. And I was like, it took my breath away. But what it was that the rest of the world was like, no, we're not buying it. We're not buying again, America, that some leader decided to like brutally gas a bunch of civilians when we have images of these jihadis driving from fucking North Africa all the way to Syria. Are you are you stupid? Like, come on now. You know what? Are you kidding us? Look at the equipment they have. The shit is new. Who are you fooling? And then we started to get the photos of McCain with all these people who are FSA, but also were Al Nusra Front, and were also Jihadi Joe and Jihadi Jim, and Jihadi Johnny and Jihadi Jane, and so there is a real dirty game being played in the background that has to do with the exchange of weapons, tremendous amounts of money, possibly lots of drugs. A lot of the stuff about Pizzagate might actually be drugs and weapons. Not even kidding. Somebody actually brought up. They said, yeah. I know that this doesn't make it any better, people. But what this might be is stuff like plutonium, uranium, like serious amounts of drugs, like tonnage, impossible, like things that you just simply couldn't imagine, like actually how many doses of that would fit into that, like fit into that space, um and so there's a dirty game that a lot of people are now sorting out because Trump has fought back. Him fighting back has made all these elements within the press, within various lobbying groups, and especially within the bureaus, the system of bureaus, expose themselves and their ties to one another and their mutual interests, which at times just simply don't make sense. There's too many of us who have sat back and we're like, why would these people be why are they leaping to the defense of these two guys, these two Ukrainian guys? Well, what is the? Why are there these two Ukrainian brothers working in the government? Wait, what do these people do? And so one of the things I suggest you look up, if you want to have some insight on what a lot of us, we just had no idea this existed. Senior Executive Services. This is a department of the government. I mean, and there's people that it's taking a while, but once you start to see what they do say, and then what suddenly they don't defend, or suddenly what they leap to the defense of, you're like, wait a second, that's kind of odd. You were on this, and then suddenly you were Ivan on the spot. You're Johnny on the spot. What just happened here? What's your interest here? Senior Executive Services. They have some project. There's something. This is some pet thing. This is some thing that they've been working on for years. Them and whoever brought them into it. And these people, there's a reason why a lot of these people just get moved around. The revolving door of politics to big business. No. They're a senior executive service person. They're a senior executive. Oh, yes. You see, they're a senior executive. That's what it is. And they actually have a union. The Senior Executive Association, I believe, is called. You could join the Senior Executive. You could apply to become a member of the Senior Executive Services. After you start to look into this and you look into, it'll look kind of conspiratorial at first, but once you like read it dry, Wikipedia, their own website, you'll start thinking about people who kind of magically have political careers. They were working in places that were rather prestigious, and then suddenly they're this. They just they just are really great at campaigning. They're amazing. They're just amazing at campaigning. They never seem to not be in politics in some way. Always moving and grooving. See, so here's an example. Ashcroft selling North Korea nuclear energy so as to bring them into the bring them in. Love, atomic love, Oh, but they make a missile. Why you make a missile? Why you make Taipodong? Oh, no Taipodong. No, that was the whole plan from the beginning. Same thing is being done to Iran. Obama was going to fuck them. First, we sell you all this stuff. You're going to have all this nuclear power. Then, of course, you're going to make missiles. And then we fuck you in the ass. We fuck you really hard then. Because you will have nuclear missiles. And Israel was like, I don't even want to chance it. And they were like, well, Israel, yeah, we're going to have you be cool, right? And the Jews were like, how about we'll talk to you later. Yeah, sure, we'll be real cool. Talk to you later on. Yeah. And they and now the rumor is that they and Saudi Arabia and the GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council, have been working together, and that you see when Israel gets money from us, they have to purchase our weapons for their armed forces. But when Israel gets money from Saudi Arabia and other GCC members, they could develop weapons for them. And that explains a lot of these really strange weapons that have appeared on the field and a lot of things that have happened recently in the Middle East. That it's like, no, there's a whole bunch of people who have decided we're done with America every once in a while slipping their fucking fingers up our ass. Fuck these guys. Obama fucked it up. And the changeover with Mohammed bin Salman, changeover with Trump, an image of them with their hand on the glowing globe on the cover of Time, all of that was meant to tell people, so this is going to change. Already you could see imams, like one of the ones I saw, an imam who was from Saudi Arabia coming to teach, I believe it was in Jerusalem, and he had rocks thrown at him by local Palestinians, and he was being accused of being a Jew. Because now the imams that are coming out of Saudi Arabia are no longer hardcore, super nut Wahhabist guys. Mohammed bin Salman has made good on what he said he was going to do to the Muslim Brotherhood and excise them because he said they are a cancer on Islam. So apparently something is changing. It's just that you have this is all being messed around with. The odd part is it is the Russians. The Russians are the ones who are making sure certain things they got real good at just putting content out. Don't know who these people were, but they were putting a shit ton of content out. And it was lots of translations of stuff from the Middle East. Very consequential stuff. And that's one of these things that you guys had no idea about, how the Russians really affected things by content creation, real creativity. All right. Yeah, I got to go to bed pretty soon. Later.